Hi, Macy King. As I began to reflect over my first post, I and continue to look at my first post, I found that I wasn't really focused, and I didn't pay careful attention to the instructions as given by the instructor. So, therefore, part of my response to the principal was from an administrator's perspective, or should I say, from the ethical profession, in which I talked about suspending Ricky and the termination of Mr. Washington for not taking care of the students in his care at the time. As I continued to think about the situation between all the major players, I moved from the ethic of profession to the ethic of care, in which I laid out a particular plan of talking with Ricky's parents to get an understanding as to how they saw Ricky at home and at outings. During that process, I would be able to get somewhat of a picture of their family interactions. I also felt that in an in depth conversation, we could develop a strategic plan to help curtail some of his negative behavior. As for Mr. Washington, rather than rushing to judgment to terminate him, according to my colleague who asked the question, was there a thorough investigation? Had a definite conclusion been made that Mr. Washington was derelict in his duties as a security officer? Also, my colleague asked the question if this would be a standard for all employees, and if so, were there others involved in the decision making process? Also, when I looked at the situation as far as Miss Henry was concerned and her uh, conversation with Mr. Washington, the superintendent, I still felt that he was looking more at the ethic of profession and making sure that Mr. Washington would have his job rather than looking at giving Miss Henry her courtesy and making sure that she looked at every aspect of the situation before she made her final decision. So as I was looking at my post, I also realized that giving her the advice that she needed to suspend Ricky and give Mr. Washington, I was not also maybe encroaching on her territory as well. Rather than giving advice, it's basically listen to what she had to say. However, looking at each incident, the question for me after writing my response was due process and true ethic of care was actually shared with Miss Hendry. In essence, what I learned from each reading is that we must be mindful and attentive when dealing with various situations and incidences to make certain that we are equally fair and moral in the final decisions that we make, thereby giving the community some assurance that the educational system is transparent and seeks to make certain all persons, no matter what their social economic level may be, gets a fair chance to be educated and become a vital citizens.